Okay, so during this video, we're going to be looking about how to find a slope when given 2 points without a graph. So at this point, the graphs have been taken away, and we're going to figure out how can we find slope whenever we're only given the x and the y coordinates of 2 points. So if you guys think back to what we've already learned about a point in a graph, is that you find the slope by doing rise over run. And something that's going to help you out whenever you're trying to think about the formula, whenever you're taking a test, quiz, doing the homework, is going back and thinking about rise over run. So once we have this foundation, if you think back to the rap that I shared or the YouTube video that was rise up, run out, it's always your rise over run. So next step, you need to figure out which axis are you going to rise and run on. So you do have two axes. There's one, the y-axis, and then you also have an x-axis as well. So if you keep this in mind, which axis are you going to end up rising up on? Well, the axis that goes up and down is going to be your y-axis. So the formula calls for y minus y. Again, you're always subtracting, so it's going to be the change in y, which change is represented by subtraction in math, over the axis you run on is your x-axis. So change in y over the change of x. And again, the change in math is represented by this subtraction operation. So we have y minus y over x minus x. This is a formula for slope between 2 points. There's another shortcut. So you're going to be given a point on a graph, 2 of them actually. And so we also need to remember the information about a point. So if you have an x and a y and you have an x and a y. Something that Mr. Fulmore had taught me back whenever I first started teaching was the L chart. He has a story about the doghouse that you have to ask him about, and there's a whole story that goes with this, but I think of it as an L chart, which like your y's flow right down, so y minus y over the x's flow down underneath and to give you your slope. So at any time you forget the formula, you can also use this method as well. So now let's take this and actually put it into practice. So for number 1, we're going to need to find the slope between the points 2, 2, and 3, 5. Now, in every single math textbook that you see or math online, they'll call this y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But it doesn't really matter what order you plot the points on a graph. As long as you connect them, they make a line. So I personally tell my students, ignore the y2 minus y1 and the x2 minus x1. Just think of it as y minus y over x minus x. So with that being said, you need to think back to your ABCs. If you start saying your ABCs, we'll realize that x does in fact come before y. So your points are labeled with x first and y second, which now we're going to plug our information basically into our formula. So we're going to have y minus y. This case, it's 2 minus 5. Again, I'm pulling my y's out from my points, my coordinates, over my x values are 2, always minus or subtract 3. Okay, if you need some assistance with this, you're going to take out your handy dandy calculator. Mine just happens to be pink. You need to clear it, you can. We're going to do 2 minus 5, which gives us negative 3, over 2 minus 3, which gives us negative 1. So now we need to take it one step further and think back to our integer rules, our integer laws. If you have a negative over a negative, that's going to change this to a positive 3. And I also got positive 3 because I went ahead and did 3 over 1 will reduce to a 3. And again, it's positive. Okay, option number 2. Let's say you forgot y minus y over x minus x. You're going to take the 2 points that were given and you're going to write them on top of each other. 2 over 2, 2 over 3, 5. Okay, from here, you're going to make the L chart. So you're going to go down and make an L. Your y's are then going to flow together. So 2, always subtract 5 over 2. Again, your x's are going to flow down. Always subtract, and then 3. We're going to end up getting the exact same thing. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, which in fact reduces to a positive 3. Okay, next example. Same concept, we're just going to do a second one. Let's do negative 5, negative 1, and negative 4, 5. We're going to have y minus y over x minus x. X's come first. Y would be negative 1 minus 5 over negative 5. Always subtract negative 4. You guys can't see that. Okay, if you need your handy dandy calculator, take negative 1, subtract 5. It's going to give you negative 6. And on this one, I'm going to type in exactly what I see. Negative 5 minus negative 4. And that's negative 1. Okay, thinking back to our integer rules, negative over negative is going to end up giving you a positive. And 6 divided by 1 is 6. So your slope happens to be 6. If, in fact, you forget your slope formula, y minus y over x minus x, you can always use the L method. So I'm going to take negative 5, negative 1, negative 4, 5. I'm going to draw the L. Remembering, though, that I need to actually subtract my numbers. So I'm going to have negative 1 and 5 brought down. And then these are going to follow. Negative 5, negative 4. So as you can see, I have subtract negative. Negative 1 subtract 5 is negative 6. Negative 5 subtract negative 4 is negative 1. So as you can see, we get the same answers. Now some students may be confused at negative 5 subtract negative 4. Think back to your integer rules. If you have subtract a negative, two negatives, double negative is a positive. So really you have negative 5 plus 4, which is why your answer happens to be negative 1. So there is a reason for this madness. Okay, best of luck to you. And again, if anytime you forget y minus y over x minus x, you can always use your formula, or go back to the L method. So here are your two methods of finding slope between 2 points without having a graph.